You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
Alrighty, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and I'm joined, as always, by your co-host, Kevin. Kevin, how are we doing tonight?
What is good, my man? So we made it through Thanksgiving. We made it through the tryptophan and the naps and the snoozer of an early morning game, and really got through the other two pretty well. It was pretty entertaining football nonetheless. And here we are on Friday. We're talking about the Sunday slate coming up, and I'm ready to rock and roll, man, because fantasy playoffs are just on the horizon here. You can start to see them.
Yeah, you're not kidding. You know, the thing that very much upset me is the Bears, if they were, they could have just chosen to score one more point in that game. One more point, and at least I would have pushed. Because on the Thursday show when we were talking, on the Tuesday show when we were talking about the Thursday games, we were going through that, and I called the Bears to cover. I called the under on that one. I called the Vegas to cover. I called the under on that one, or the over on that one, and then I called the Bills to cover and the under on that one. And had the Bears scored one more point, I'd have rolled it and gone. I would have had a push and then had 5 of the next 5 right. So it would have been spectacular. But no, they had to miss it by 1 point, which that sums up my how those games went for me yesterday, right? Like I was running a bunch of different types of parlays, ins and outs, and I had one that I missed one by somebody didn't get 3 yards, three more yards on the ground for that player. Would have got me a nice one there. Had another one where I had a parlay with Darren Waller in it, and he exited early with the injury, and he would have easily gone over what that one was. So I had 2 parlays that were just dashed brilliantly right there because of a couple of circumstances. But as they say, them's the breaks. So
yeah, absolutely. As a Zeke Elliott owner, I'm starting to panic a little bit. Like this knee from not really bothering him to probably is a little bit more serious than they're leading on. Like I'm really hoping this 10-day layoff for the Cowboys does something for, and really it's not even because I think they might play next Thursday night too. Like, so I'm in panic mode a little bit just because it is, it's clear that it's bugging him a little bit, and the Cowboys are aware of that, and it's making it hard to play Zeke with a lot of confidence. Now I have Pollard the handcuff, but it does me no good when they go RBBC. Like I want one or the other. I don't want both. So that is frightening me a little bit. Josh Allen has seemingly snapped out of his funk, looking pretty good, minus that one interception in the first half against the Saints. And man, oh man, like what a snoozer in that Bears-Lions game. Like, holy smokes. How David Montgomery doesn't just go rough shot for like $135 and 2 touchdowns is beyond me. But
yep.
You know what? Who showed out was Darnell Mooney. And I haven't given this kid a whole lot of praise. I haven't been the biggest believer, but I am starting to come along just a little bit. He does have the rapport, and he's seeing the volume. And that's one of the biggest things, we talk about, right? Follow the volume, follow, where the targets are going. I got to start paying attention to the kid, whether it's DFS, whether, it's looking at a redraft board for next year and kind of what I think might be happening there. We'll see once we get in the offseason. But Mooney has now hit my radar. I know some people out there are saying, well, we told you that 6 weeks ago. It's like, he still played for the Bears, guys. But back-to-back games over 100 yards. He has a 26% target share in those games. Yes, there was no Allen Robinson, but still, if you're getting over 100 yards for the Chicago Bears, everyone thought preseason that it was going to be Allen Robinson getting over 100 yards if you're a receiver for the Bears, not Darnell Mooney. So kudos to the kid. He made it to my radar, and now I got to figure out what I'm going to do with him.
Yeah, it's always kind of the difficult thing there when they kind of come along and they've got that late bloom on there, plus the fact that you don't that quarterback situation is a whole thing there, and the fact that Bears offense is not that attractive to begin with, and quite frankly, like he had a big game, that really had to kind of a breakout game there, but again, makes me question how much of that was because it was the Detroit Lions, right? Like if he's playing a team that's even in the mid tier of NFL defenses, I don't think he has that same type of performance there. So it'll be interesting to see how this one looks and works, but you never
against
know.
The Ravens, right? Though, right? Like, I mean, game 1 was, I guess, last Sunday. He did the same thing to the Ravens. Now, they are not the prolific passing defense that they've been in years past, but there's at least some name credibility behind that, and it's not the Detroit Lions. So I don't know. I got to follow a little bit more closely. I'll come back with some better analysis, but he's caught my eye, and now I need to figure out what to tell y'all to do with him.
Yeah, that's that is always the joy there. Little disappointed in another one too, looking at those games yesterday. I don't really know what to make of these Dallas Cowboys, right? Like, are they good? Are they not good? They've lost 3 of 4 lately, and they're on what seems to be a massive skid. The AFC West certainly seems to have their number this season, where the Chiefs, the Broncos, and the Raiders beat them. The only team that they beat from the AFC West was the Chargers there. Now, the good news is that they're finally done and don't have to play any more AFC West teams out there. And now they just get to focus on a little bit more in division, and they've got a little bit better schedule looking forward here. But definitely an interesting thing and something worth keeping an eye on there. Also very interesting to note, on that one there, both the Cowboys 1 and 2, 1A, 1B type of receiver matchups were out of that game, with both CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper missing. But that and the Zeke that you already brought up there. So this is one of those that's something worth keeping an eye on and monitoring as this keeps going along.
Yeah. So we expect Cooper to be back next week for their game, to be cleared off the COVID protocol and all that good stuff. CeeDee Lamb, they really pushed for him to get back to this game. I'm glad for his career that they sat him down, though. I think long term that's better for these Cowboys. Watching these games, it's a mixed bag, right? So last week against the Chiefs, the defense played really well. The offense couldn't find a rhythm, especially after CeeDee Lamb went out. Yes, Cooper was already out, so you gotta find a way to make heads or tails about that. But against the Raiders, the defense was a no-show, and the offense came to play. Like they just haven't been able to get both units back together. Trayvon Diggs is still playing really, really well, but the Cowboys' opponents have realized that, well, he can only cover one guy, and we can send 2, 3, 4 other guys out in routes, and any of those are options at any given time, right? So, and that's all playing into it. And
you had the cornerback Brown from the Cowboys yesterday draw like 4 different pass interference, and they were all for big plays too. And some of them I didn't necessarily agree with, but there was one of those that, watching that game yesterday, seemed that there was a lot of penalties, and the refs were very involved throughout that thing. And I don't really quite understand why they were in that one as much as they were. Some of those things seemed like they might have been doing a little bit of ticky-tacky, trying to keep this thing very close. I don't know if there was, some underlying things there that, that crew got together and said, hey, we need to keep this thing close because of the, there's some underlying beefs or things like that we just don't know about. But that game seemed to be very, very heavily flagged throughout.
Yeah, especially in the second half after they had the ejections, right? They had the disqualifications, one for each team, and then holy smokes, did the flags start flying. And it was a ton. Now, as far as Brown goes, I agreed with 2 of them, and I didn't agree with 2 of them as far as, the defensive pass interference calls. Honestly, the one that I disagreed most with was the one in overtime. That was not. And even if you're going to call defensive holding, that puts the ball at the 40, not the 25. So even if you're going to say, okay, spot of the foul, you missed it by 15 yards. Like, this isn't. I mean, you weren't really close. So that one was a tough pill to swallow. But then again, the Cowboys shot themselves in the foot, right?
Right.
They did a horrible job with their kick return to start overtime, and then they got back up against it, and it, Dak needed to do a better job hitting receivers in stride. But if you're an NFL receiver and you're sliding down and the ball hits your hands right here,
You
you
got to
have to
bring that
catch
in.
it. Right, you get paid to do that, and they know that, right? It sucked for the Cowboys. They'll watch the film. They'll try and get better from that, but you got to come down with that. And there were 3, 4, 5 different plays by Cowboys receivers who typically are buried in the depth chart and they're seeing meaningful snaps in a high scoring close game that really let Dak down because his numbers, he played better than his numbers, and his numbers were actually really damn good,
Yeah.
right? And Dak did play better than his numbers. He can't, when they have 4 drops, when your team has 4 drops and 2 touchdowns called back because of holding, I mean, them's the breaks, as you said earlier, but man, does that have to frustrate an offense.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Moving on to that Buffalo game there too. That was one that was never in question anyway through it. No matter how you looked at it, one of the biggest question marks though was Zach Moss being almost a healthy scratch, is from what I recall on that one, and the fact that Matt Breida saw all the run that he did, and all of a sudden it was the Matt Breida show. As far as the Buffalo seemingly deciding that they were going to have one back that they were going to kind of feature throughout that game, which was kind of an interesting thing, something a little different that we had seen there, but to the point you already said it earlier that Josh Allen, looks back to form. That offense looks a little bit more back to form. The Saints, I'm hard pressed after watching the Saints the last couple of weeks. I thought that they would be able to manage and weather Jameis going down there and still be able to be a playoff type of team, but I don't know that they're going to be able to win enough games here to sneak in even as the 7th seed.
Well, they just got to get healthy, right? I mean, they had 15, truly 14, but then once Mark Ingram went out, 15 starters miss that game.
Right.
So they are beat up by injury heavily. They definitely need to get healthy for them to kind of play as a cohesive unit again. We got to figure out what's going on with Taysom Hill, man. Like they give him an extension with all these bonuses and clauses in there about the number of snaps at each position, and that's how he gets paid and everything else. We thought that he was going to have more of a split role with Jameis at quarterback. It after week 2, because of the concussion, it seemed like he couldn't knock the cobwebs out of that. He comes back for 2 weeks, then gets dinged up. He suited up as the emergency quarterback this Thursday night. Like, Taysom Hill is not solely the answer, but he does at least provide a wrinkle that other teams need to prepare for. And right now, the Saints need as many wrinkles as possible because that wide receiving core might be all the pass catchers, tight end, wide receiver, all. If Alvin Kamara is not on the field, that might be the worst group of skill position players in the NFL right now. Like,
Yes.
it is terrible. And Trevor Siemian is not dynamic. So that's a bad combination when you have a guy who likes to hold on to the ball. He takes deep drops. He creates extra sacks. Like, he doesn't see the game as clearly as, your upper echelon quarterbacks do. And you don't really have anybody of quality to continue to feed the ball. That's going to be damning for the Saints here the rest of the season unless they can get healthy in a hurry.
Right. Yeah, that was one of those that you would have expected. Like, we knew the Bills' defense was good and the run defense was good, but there was at one point where they had the Saints running backs were averaging like 1 yard per carry. Like, it was absolutely mind-boggling the amount of volume that the Saints were trying to run the ball and getting nowhere throughout the game on that one. So, yeah, again, one of those that I don't. Buffalo or the Saints are going to have to do something quick, fast, and in a hurry to get back into playoff contention. And one of those that they're kind of riding that bubble. You got some teams behind them getting hot, and so I don't know if they're going to be able to maintain pace here down the stretch to try and pull enough wins out to over the last 6 games or so of their season to be able to make that even that 7th spot there. So it'll be interesting to see how that one comes to play.
Yeah, bad team.
Yeah. So, but guys, we do have a great show for you tonight. We're going to get into and we're going to start breaking down some games. We're going to start doing some of our pick'ems for the weekend here as well. We're also going to hit up some props fantasy. We had Joel on Tuesday. That was a great interview, great episode. It's on the YouTube channel. You can go back there, take a peek at it and rewatch it, take a look at it. All of that kind of good stuff there. And you can find us on the socials at Good Old Boys on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Give us a follow there. Hop on the YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button. Ring the bell to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast YouTube channel. Very much appreciate everybody supporting us there. And that is one of the best ways to support this independent podcast. So absolutely, appreciate everybody tuning in, chiming in. All of that. If you guys have questions, comments, anything like that while we're going through those, throw those in the comments, and let's go ahead and talk about them. Help you guys get your fantasy lineup set, answer any questions that you may have for that as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start getting into some of the matchups here for week 12. And our first one is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers heading over to the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati's favored in this one by 3.5. Over under on this one, 45. What are your thoughts here?
These games are typically very, very physical, really old-fashioned slobber knocker type games. I don't know if we're going to see that this week, though. Like, that's just not quite who Cincinnati is. Pittsburgh put up more of a fight last week against the Chargers than really expected, and did a great job crawling back to take a lead there in the fourth quarter. So I'm going to start by saying I'm going to take the over in this game. I think Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, T. Higgins are going to show out, and I think the Steelers are going to be able to try and keep pace here a little bit because that Cincinnati defense is not a world beater by any stretch. So I think we're going to have some fun fireworks in this game. I'm thinking something, 24-21, or 24. Well, I guess that is the 45. So
that's a push, yeah.
Yeah, so I think push or over 27-21. Hell, you might see 31-30 in this game even. But I like the offensive weapons in this game. You're playing Burrow. You're playing at least Higgins and Chase. Boyd only if you have to. Joe Mixon's been on a tear. Najee, you're playing him. Just keep an eye. He's been practicing this week from what I've been seeing, but keep an eye on that because this is about the time of year that you do typically see rookie workhorse running backs kind of taper off towards the end of the season. It's just a different type of workload than what they're used to in high school and college. So keep an eye out for Najee and what that looks like. But if you have him, you're playing him. But all in all, Bengals come out with this game 3.5. The 3.5 is what's tough. I like Cincinnati at home on the money line. The 3.5 is kind of tough though. But since we have to choose, I'll say Cincinnati covers.
Gotcha. I'm going to say that this one's a field goal game. Like it just has that feeling to it. And these two typically play each other very, very tough. Typically very close matchups. So I'm going to say a field goal game, which would give Pittsburgh the cover on that one. Over under on this one. I've gone back and forth because I can see two different narratives playing out on this one where it's going to be be that old school AFC North type of matchup here where you see these two tee off on each other and really play a tight game and it becomes 21-17. And that was my initial thoughts when I started working through this thing. But as I kept looking at it, I really kind of ended up on the side that you're talking about there, where it's going to be on the over to the point where it's probably going to be about a 27-24 type of matchup is about where I see this one playing out. And so that's where I'm going to take it. I'm going to take the Steelers to just barely cover at about 3 points there. and the over there as well. But it'll be interesting to see how they utilize some of these things and how these teams ultimately line up and play each other. Any thoughts on this one? That's one.
These are always entertaining games to watch, right?
Yes.
And it doesn't quite have the same feel as the Killer Bees and Vontez Burfict going back and
Right.
forth, throwing the cheap shots. But there is a natural disdain. Like the Ravens Steelers have the big highlighted rivalry, but make no mistake, the Bengals and the Steelers cannot stand each other. Like there is a loathing between these two franchises, so it does make for some interesting fireworks. So should be a good one.
Yeah, it should be. Alrighty, let's go ahead and head on over to Tampa Bay Buccaneers, heading to the Indianapolis Colts. Tampa Bay favored by 3, the over-under 53 on this one. What are your thoughts here?
I'm really excited for this game because I can actually pick Tampa Bay, and there's a spread close enough that I think it's worthy of Tampa Bay covering. So I like Tampa Bay a lot in this game. They know that it's this time of season that they need to start clicking. Everything should be getting back together. Sounds like no AB again, but Godwin, Evans, and Gronk are all in play. And as long as you have Tom Brady and at least one weapon, they stand a hell of a chance. Tampa Bay's defense has been playing slightly better as well as they continue to get players back healthy. So the Colts' magic for this week, I think, is going to run a bit short, and Tampa Bay is going to go into Indianapolis cover, and we are going to take the over in this game.
Gotcha. I was trying to look it up and I couldn't see anything, so I'll just ask the question: have you seen whether or not Vita Vea is good to go in this matchup here?
Oh, I haven't. Give me 2 seconds. I'll find out.
Because I was looking, I was having a difficult time seeing that. I know he had the MCL sprain that was reported on a couple weeks ago, and I just haven't seen where he's if he's on track to play, if he's not on track to play, because that is going to change the dynamic of this game drastically. I have a feeling.
He is still officially listed as questionable. So hopefully we'll know more tomorrow as they kind of release that Saturday injury report. And more, those Saturday reports have been pretty telling and pretty accurate to the game. So that's been a good thing as far as making adjustments. But he is still questionable. I know he wants to be out. They were showing clips last week of him warming up and trying to convince the coaches to let him go. So I know he wants to get, or Monday night, right? And so I know he wants to get out there. It's just a matter if he can convince the trainers and the coaching staff that, hey, he's ready to go. But I know the Bucs want him out there as well. So if he's 50-50, which is what a questionable tag typically is, I'm going to give Vita Vea the benefit of saying it's 60-40 that he plays.
Okay. So, because that's one of those that if he's in there, this game sways for me, right? If he's in there, I think Tampa Bay covers, and I think you're right. I think it is going to be, fairly high scoring type of affair there. On the flip side, if he doesn't play, right, Tampa Bay's run defense without him suffers significantly. Jonathan Taylor, arguably one of the best arguably the best running back in football at the moment, and has really done some amazing things, right? Like we just saw the Buffalo Bills stymie the Saints run defense to the point where, there really wasn't one out there. Jonathan Taylor absolutely gassed that same Bills defense the week before and put up a beautiful, monstrous performance against them. Vita Vea in there is, I think they are able to hold Jonathan Taylor in check more so. Without him in there, I see a similar type of thing happening where Jonathan Taylor is going to go buck wild in this game and really have a really great game on this one. So for me, it's all going to hinge on Vita Vea. If Vita Vea is playing, I think that you'll see Tampa Bay win. I think you're going to see it be right about at the mark of probably about 55 total points in this one, somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 30 to 25, somewhere in there type of thing. But on the flip side, if if Vita Vea doesn't play, I see the Colts ultimately pulling it out and having kind of at that point it has almost a 27-24 type of feel for me with the Bucks pulling that one out there. So that's how much I see Vita Vea playing a difference in this game and how much that this matchup's going to depend on him. I do think that you're going to see some very good options there, right? Like last week you saw Michael Pittman, Carson Wentz pretty much taken out of the game with Jonathan Taylor going crazy. I think both of those guys are very much in play because with that Bucks defense and them getting healthier and them getting some of those guys in that secondary back there as well, you've got to have a little bit more of a balanced attacks and that kind of stuff there. So I think that you're going to see both of them be very fantasy viable on that one. And an interesting question there as well. We had one come in earlier today. Mike Evans, Elijah Moore, as far as a wide receiver play this week. And I have to lean with the Elijah Moore side of it because this one also has the feel of it being more of a Godwin game than a Mike Evans game to me.
I would agree that it's probably more of a Godwin game than a Mike Evans game, but I cannot subscribe to the fact of starting Elijah Moore with another quarterback over Mike Evans and everything he's done. Like, you are riding the horses that got you here at this point, and I just cannot subscribe to that.
Fair enough. Alrighty. Any other thoughts on this game here?
Yeah. On to the next one.
Alrighty. On to Cincinnati, right?
On this, well, we already covered Cincinnati, so we got to be on to somebody else.
All right, fine. It's on to the Carolina Panthers and the Miami Dolphins here. Carolina favored by 2.5. The over-under is 42 in this game here. What are your thoughts here?
Oof. I like Carolina here. Like, I know that there's still some things that they're kind of working through here with Cam and getting things back up and running, but man, they just look a little bit better. Christian McCaffrey has been getting tons of volume. That's always a great thing to see. So I think he's kind of the difference maker in this game. I think DJ Moore finds his way into the end zone again, which fantasy owners will be happy with. And ultimately, Carolina sneaks this one out. 2.5. I'll say field goal game. Carolina, and we're going to say the under.
Yep, I like that a lot because this one has ultimately like a 20-17 type of field for me. 21-18. Like every time I kind of run through it and I go through the scenarios of this one, that's where I see this one playing out there. And that is going to be the under. I see Carolina being able to win by a field goal on this one. But this one has the makeups of being a very interesting defensive type of matchup here. Miami Dolphins are looking like the defense that showed up last year. And, looks like they finally found that spark and found some of that magic coming back there. So it could be very interesting how this one plays out there. Cam Newton seems to have provided a spark to the Carolina Panthers on that offensive side of the ball. That defense has been playing pretty good all year. So I see this one being just kind of that defensive slugfest in this thing where you see these things ultimately playing out there right around that 2017, 21-18 type of game to it. So it'll be a good game, a lot of back and forth type of watching to it, but I just don't see a lot of teams either team putting the ball in the end zone much on this one. So be very interesting to see how it ultimately comes to play and see how this one turns out there. But I do like several different options there on Carolina's side of the ball. As far as fantasy options go, not a big fan on a couple of options on Miami's side where Myles Gaskin, if I've got him, I'm looking to pivot on that one any way that I can. But I do like the Jalen Waddle, do like the Mike Gesicki play on this one. Any other thoughts here?
Jalen Waddle is the guy I'm looking to get a piece of. And Carolina's been pretty good against the pass, but they've done a good way. Miami has done a good job in finding ways of getting Waddle the ball. And I think that continues. So Waddle's the piece I like to see. Gesicki will undoubtedly see, 6 to 8 targets in this game. But I just don't trust Tua to get the job done when it matters most.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Let's go ahead and head on over to Tennessee Titans heading to the New England Patriots. New England is favored by 7. The over-under is 43.5. This one was a little surprising when I saw that line where New England's favored by a full touchdown in this one. But what are your thoughts here?
I liked it a lot more when New England was a 5.5 point favorite than I do right now with them as a 7 point favorite. It just, the number scares me. But New England's been playing very, very well. I think their defense will absolutely find a creative and efficient way to shut down all things Tennessee Titans. So I'll go out on a limb. I'll say New England finds a way to cover with the rookie quarterback as they continue their resurgence in the AFC East and pulled off the Bills for first place in the division one more week.
Yeah, that could be. Now, very interesting to look at this one as well, right? Because you've got the Tennessee Titans waived Adrian Peterson after the last game, so he'll no longer be there. But one of the interesting pieces of information to keep track of is AJ Brown looked like he is potentially going to miss this game. There was lots of things kind of going on that where he showed up on the injury report there, and there's a lot of things there where we're just not sure what that's going to look like. So need to keep a look on that. He exited last week's matchup with a chest injury. The Tennessee Titans have a tendency this year very much to play to the level of their competition. Now, New England's been playing pretty well lately. So this is one of those that I would expect Tennessee to be ready to come out and play for this game. They're not playing the New York Jets or the Houston Texans, so not expecting a letdown game type of game here. But I also just don't see that if AJ Brown misses, you've got no Julio, you've got you're now leaning on your running back by committee approach back there, and I just don't see Ryan Tannehill being able to get the job done here against New England. So as much as I want to say that this game is going to be tighter than it is, I think that, touchdown really seems about right. So to the point where I want to call a push on this thing, but and if I'm going to call a push on that one, I'm going to lean on Tennessee covering just barely and call the under on this one as well. Like this one has a 24-18 type of feel for me on this one. So that's really kind of where I think I'm going to lean on this one is 24-18 New England win, but that puts Tennessee covering in the under to come in on this one. Any other thoughts here?
Yeah, if AJ Brown doesn't play, I just don't know how Tennessee comes up with enough points. And you might be right. I mean, these things happen. But Tennessee's on a roll right now. That defense is playing out of this world. I do think the difference is New England's has all this game film of Tennessee, right? I think the Chiefs kind of took Tennessee for granted. I think the Bills kind of did the same thing. And just thinking, oh, it's our little brother over here. We'll just take care of them, even though they were a playoff team last year. And sure enough, it just didn't happen. Now, granted, in those big upsets, according to the sports books, Derrick Henry was playing. And that is also a key difference in what this Tennessee team has right now. So it'll be interesting, but it's back to Belichick mode. I can't bet against Bill.
Fair enough. That is, that's one of those that you do so at your, throwing caution to the wind, I guess, when you bet against him. But alrighty, let's go ahead and head on over to the next matchup here. A in-conference or in-division rivalry taking place here. The Philadelphia Eagles taking on the New York Giants. Philadelphia is favored by 3.5 in this one. The over-under 45.5. What are your thoughts here?
I got on this game at 3, and I bought a 0.5 point to take it at 2.5. And so now I'm scared that it's 3.5 because I liked it earlier. But that being said, the Giants, we'll see how the firing of Jason Garrett goes and Freddie Kitchens calling plays. and what that looks like for this league. But man, oh man, like it can't get any worse. But at the same time, Philly's playing really good ball right now. Like their defense is coming along. Their ground game is where it should have been the first 6 weeks, 7, 8 weeks of the season. They finally realized that, holy crap, we're a really good team when we can pound the ball. And we have a lot of different options to run the ball with that are all slightly different. Like these guys aren't the same guy. Um, so I think Philly keeps their run. I think Philly's going to make this hard on Dallas right now, and Dallas needs to. They separated themselves, and now where they're stumbling, Philadelphia is coming up to kind of challenge them and at least make them hold them honest, right, to this NFC East title. But I'm going to take the Eagles here, and I'm going to take the over. I like some fireworks in this game. I think Freddie's got a couple trick plays in his hat. It looks like Galladay, Barkley. We don't know about Kadarius Toney, but Evan Ingram will probably be back in play with Freddie Kitchens. So we'll see what this does for the offense and kind of rejuvenates some of these skill positions that the Giants have, because they have talent. It's not a lack of talent at the skill position level. It's a lack of execution. And we'll see if Freddie can put these guys in the right place and put points up on the board.
Yeah. And it's interesting, too, to see some of the reports coming out of New York and hear some of the sportscasters and folks from that part of the country talking, because they are it really sounds like they're starting to beat the drum for, blow this team up and start a fresh type of thing. And so it'll be interesting to see how this one ultimately plays out. But I don't know that you're going to see, Freddie Kitchens be the answer on this one. But anytime that you get some new blood in there, it takes one of two very drastic turns. Typically, it either drastically falls apart very quickly, or it typically, or it'll pick back up, and you'll see a new life in these players and things like that. But the defense also hasn't been very good for New York. So it'll be interesting to see how this one comes to play. But I think you're right. I think the Eagles win this one. I like it. I like this to be about a game when it initially opened up there as well. But I'm going to have to still lean with the Eagles here. The Giants have not been looking good lately. The Eagles can move to 500 with a win here and go 6-6, with the Cowboys being 7-4 right now. That puts the Eagles in a very interesting position, to the point where in week 18, they are going to play the Dallas Cowboys. And so a win here moves them to right around a game and a half back, with the Eagles still to take their bye in week 13, I believe. So this is one of those that you could see the Eagles with a win here put some pressure on Dallas and make them go through to the point where, I think Dallas a couple weeks ago was thinking that when they were looking at that week 18 matchup, they were going to be able to rest a lot of guys and basically take that as almost a bye week type of thing going into the playoffs. But this is one of those that this conference is starting to shape up where I don't think that that's going to be able to be the case here. So the Eagles are coming on strong at the right time. They found the run game, like you said, and they've got some interesting things at play there. Any other thoughts on this game?
No, I want to see what Saquon can do when they're not getting blown out. They did try and use him against the Buccaneers, but that game got out of hand way early on him. So
yep.
I do want to see how Saquon's usage is going to be. I know Saquon owners are hoping that he can be a savior to their season, because if you drafted him in the back end of the first, top end of the second, you drafted him to play, and he hasn't done a whole lot of that. But if you can kind of get that shot in the arm for your roster, it could propel you into the playoffs in quite a nice way. So we'll see how that kind of shakes out for him.
Yeah. Although if folks listening to this show, if they were listening to us, they wouldn't have drafted Saquon. So it'll be, right. For those of you out there listening, there's a good chance that you don't have Saquon on your roster. And if that's the case, you're welcome. So
yeah, I haven't seen too many Saquon questions from the listeners come across. So maybe they were taking our word for it. But hell, one of our co-hosts has him. I mean, he couldn't turn it down. and now
No.
he's stuck with him.
Yep. Yep. Because there's no way that you're going to see any sort of return on value for where you drafted him and what you ultimately need for your roster to make that thing through. Let's go ahead and head on over to the Atlanta Falcons. They're taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Atlanta favored by 2. The over-under is 46 on this one. What are your thoughts on this game here?
I expect the Falcons to bounce back. Cordell Patterson looks like he's going to play. They got embarrassed last week against the Patriots, and they realized that. So I find myself believing that they'll find a way to bounce back against a inferior team. The Jaguars aren't very good. Agnew, IR. So now we're back to this random cast of characters and what they're going to do. So fantasy wise, there's only Robinson's the only guy I'm starting. Everybody else, Dan Arnold if I'm in a pinch, because he's seeing some pretty decent target share here at the moment. So you can look at Dan Arnold if you're streaming tight ends. That's not a bad play. You can see some run with that. But Arnold and Robinson, probably the only two that I'm even considering. As for the Falcons, Cordell Patterson, Kyle Pitts, and that's about it from that side. There's not a whole lot of fantasy relevance in this game.
Nope, not at all. Let's go ahead and we got a question coming in on the YouTube. Monir on YouTube is saying start 2, Devonta Freeman, Damian Harris, Javonte Williams, Ramondre Stevenson. Javonte Williams is an easy sit because he's on bye this week, which really leaves you with Damian Harris, Stevenson, and Devonta Freeman there.
No, that was last week, homie. Javonte's playing the Chargers. I actually like Javonte this week.
Oh, you're right. I've got my weeks mixed up. So
thank you
for
are
that.
Looking back in the past.
I was looking at the wrong one. I'm looking at the wrong one there.
Man, these are a lot of split backs here. Holy smokes.
Yep. So keep in mind, both Damian Harrison and Ramondre Stevenson showed up on the injury report this week. Stevenson was a late add onto that one. So I'm very much looking at the injury report coming out tomorrow of New England on that one to see, because, and here's the thing, if either one of those guys is set to miss the game for it and the other one's a start, man, that's a smash yes for me. Because either one of those guys will then see both first and second down work, with Brandon Bolden seeing the third down work. And so they'll get goal line work. They'll get a lot of running opportunity there. So if either one of those guys miss, smash the yes button on that one. So that's probably how I'm going to lean. I'm probably going to lean with Javonte Williams in there. I'm going to lean with if either one of Damian Harris or Ramondre Stevenson miss. But if not, I actually probably lean a little bit more towards the Damian Harris side on that one. Which are your two?
Man, I like Javonte this week. The Chargers rushing defense is
bad.
Bueno. Like, they are really, really bad. Cleveland, I think that Cleveland-Baltimore game's going to be pretty competitive. But my biggest thing about Freeman is Latavius Murray's kind of coming off the injury report.
Mm-hmm.
And it is going to be interesting to see how that dynamic shapes out. We don't have that answer yet. So we know what Damian Harris and Stevenson look like when they're both healthy. Derek, you're spot on. If one of them happens to miss this game, the other is a smash yes, and Javonte Williams. So if Stevenson and Harris both play, I'm going to lean Stevenson because I think I think he has a better chance of scoring a touchdown just based off of how the Patriots kind of run that offense at the moment. So if Harris and Stevenson both play, I'm leaning Stevenson and Javonte. But if Stevenson is ruled out, Harris is the clear top back that you have out of this group of 4 listed, and then Javonte falls into number 2.
Yep. I would – yeah, you'll switch me over on that. Stevenson did see a little bit bigger workload this last couple of weeks with both of them healthy, so I think you convinced me. I'll roll that way.
I do think part of that was just drives. Like
Could be.
Stevenson saw a slightly bigger workload. Damian Harris saw slightly more snaps. I think that can be easily flipped from week to week, but Stevenson is more of that big bruising back that they're not going to be. It'll be harder to push him around inside the 5 yard line. Excuse me. Damian Harris, if they get inside the 10, more often than not, he kind of gets ghosted.
Yeah, you could be right there. All right. Money are also saying he needs guaranteed points this week. Half point PPR, Russell Wilson or Jimmy G.
Russ.
Yeah, I would lean that way as well. They're taking on the Washington football team on Monday night. I think this is the week that Russ pulls that together. Jimmy G taking on the Minnesota Vikings there. Yeah, that could be an interesting deal there as well. Plus, it looks like Seattle's actually the underdog on this one, so I would expect the Seahawks to need to be throwing the ball more, whereas the the Niners are actually favored in their matchup against Minnesota at home. So I'll take Russell Wilson on the road for the daily double there, Kevin.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I'm starting Russ over Jimmy G. And the matchup is sweet. It's his third game back. Like, he's getting more and more comfortable with that finger, even if he did rush the recovery slightly. Now we're back to where we should be, but he has a couple games under his belt. There is no running game for Seattle whatsoever. No Chase Young because of going on IR for the football team. Means more time in the pocket for Russ, and Seattle's defense is so bad, it means Washington most likely will be able to keep this pretty close. So means more throwing the ball. So Russ Wilson for me.
All righty. I like it. Let's go ahead and hit up our next game here. That is the New York Jets versus the Houston Texans. The Texans favored by 2.5. The over-under is 44.5. What are your thoughts on this one?
This is my guarantee of the week. Houston. The Jets just they're struggling right now. They're struggling offensively. They're struggling defensively. Houston's actually playing pretty stinking well at home. Like, they're playing themselves out of a top 3 draft pick, and
Right.
And they're okay with that. I expect Tyrod to have a really good game this week against the Jets. We are going to see what what Zach Wilson looks like coming back off this injury, with White and Flacco both being on the COVID list. Michael Carter is going to be out this game. So, you want to see some Corey Davis. You want to see some Elijah Moore if you're, Jets fans and fantasy owners of those players. But you got to be careful because they just picked Tannehill off 4 times. So they realize what they need to do. Houston realizes what they need to do defensively to make this happen. But I think they cover the 2.5. So Houston is my smash of the week. I have them in a lot of different places and mixed up in a lot of different 3 or 4 game parlays. Just because I will, that's my linchpin, right? Like, if that game goes right, I'm pretty damn comfortable with how the rest of my week's going to turn out.
I like it. And Houston Texans been playing pretty good defense. Even besides that Titans game last week, they've been playing pretty decent defense for about the last 3-4 weeks leading up to this matchup here. And I look for that to continue, right? Zach Wilson hasn't really looked, he's looked like a rookie this year and hasn't really, we haven't seen him progress yet on the season. I don't think that takes place again on this one. So I do like Houston on this one. I do like the under on this one. I just don't see either team putting up a ton of points to this thing. I think you'll probably see Houston somewhere around, call it 20-ish points, but I don't see the Jets really getting past 10 or 13. So I see Houston winning this one pretty easily at home and just putting the Jets away early in this one. So I like the under. I like the Texans to cover on this one. So that's kind of how I see that. Any other thoughts on this game here?
I like the push, honestly. Like, I like a 24-20 game, but I mean, Houston, like I said, Houston for me. But I just see a couple more points being scored on each side.
Fair enough, guys. We so like we said earlier, we had Joel on the Joel from Props Fantasy on the show on Tuesday, and you all can go back there and check that episode out. It is on the YouTube channel, and while you're there, make sure you click the subscribe button, ring the bell, all that good stuff. But when we're talking about props fantasy, right? Like this is a new way to do fantasy football. And when they were when I came across this thing and was having some folks show me on how to use this thing, was absolutely blown away by some of the potential here and some of the different things here. Because there's a lot of times out there that you're joined all of these different leagues to try and play with a couple of these different folks out there. Whereas now you can do it where even if you're in a couple of different leagues out there and you got another buddy that you want to play against, like you can have it set up where you can do one-on-one type of matchups on any given week. And for instance, right, there's a lot of leagues that Kevin plays in that I'm not necessarily in. And we can go back and forth and have it to the point where Kevin can put his team up in that league. I can put my team up in my league, and we can play each other, and we can have folks hop in there and pick who is going to ultimately win this thing. And not only that, we're playing in a little thing that they've got called the Tournament of Champions. And playing there, our first matchup is against Joe Pisapia from Fantasy Pros. You can hop on there and give us the support, vote on that one. But let's go ahead and head over there because we're going to take a look at the Tournament of Champions. And Kevin and I are going to take a look at some of those, and we're going to see which one of these matchups we like. We're going to vote on who we're going to go through, and we're going to take you guys along for the ride with us on this one. So let's go ahead and just start here. This is the Tournament of Champions, the landing page in the arena here. And we're just going to start with the very first matchup here. And we've got MD Fantasy Football Show taking on the Devi Royal. And so looking at it, you can see kind of right here, you've got two teams backing MD's Fantasy Football and two teams backing the Devi Royal. So a couple of different this game looks to be fairly kind of even here. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. Both of them projected pretty well. But Kevin, looking at their matchups, MD is running Jalen Hurts, Deontay Johnson, Tyler Lockett, Michael Gallup, Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley, Mark Andrews, and Damian Hillard there. And you've got the Devi Royal running Josh Allen, DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, Deontay Johnson, Cordero Patterson, DeAndre Swift, Mark Andrews, and Darren Waller. So if you have to pick, right, let's go through some of these things and let's make some of those. Let's make some of our predictions here on which way you would lean.
I think we're going to cheat here a little bit, right? Because I think before the week started, I really liked the Devi Royal team. I liked what they've been able to do since the Thursday games with two players from the Devi Royal team having early exits in DeAndre Swift and Darren Waller. I do think that changes my mind on things. Josh Allen balled out, had a great game for that squad, but MD Nation has a full list of players yet to play outside of Michael Gallup, who did his part, right? He held serve and did his part to hold up for the team. So now we have Deontay Johnson in a game that I told you earlier I was taking the over in, so I do expect him to see a ton of work. Tyler Lockett going up against a really poor Washington football team defense, so I like the ability for him to get a long one and get those points. Jalen Hurts in the running game. Saquon, like we said, the Mark Andrews is interesting because those will wash out, right? So Mark Andrews is essentially, a zero for each team.
Right. Same thing with Deontay Johnson too.
Oh, that's right. I missed that. So Deontay Johnson and Mark Andrews are both zeros for each team. So now I like Dalvin Cook. I like Saquon a bit more than I like DJ Moore and Cordero Patterson. So I'm going to take ND Nation. They're going to come back. Jalen Hurts is going to lead this squad, and they are going to squeak out the victory here over the Devi Royal team.
Yeah, I would agree on that one. And that's the way that we're going to vote there is we're going to take MD Nation from MD's fantasy show there. And we've, you guys have seen Dan on our show before. We've had him on here, and we're going to go ahead and vote that way as well. Let's go ahead and head over here to the next matchup. You've got the Dynasty Nerds taking on Ball Blast. And so let's take a look here and see what these matchups look like as we get in there. Dynasty Nerds playing Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Nick Chubb, Darren Waller, Stephon Diggs, AJ Brown, Tyreek Hill. That's a pretty darn good roster there. Versus Ball Blast is playing Jalen Hurts, Debo Samuels, Zach Moss, Gronk, Sony Michel, Travis Kelce, Brandon Bolden. What are your thoughts on this one?
Dynasty Nerds need to get Tyreek out of their freaking lineup. That's what I think. And Ball Blast got stuck a little bit, right? Zach Moss was, basically a game time scratch. So we got some issues here, right? Both teams can be taking zeros when they're not needed. I like the Rodgers-Adams combo going up against the Rams. Obviously, Adams is probably going to be seeing a fair amount of Jalen Ramsey, but that's okay because that chemistry in Lambeau is going to be tough to beat. Short, sweet, and to the point. Get Tyreek out of your lineup. And if you do, I'm taking the Dynasty Nerds to kind of walk away with this one.
And quite frankly, even if they don't take him out of the lineup, I'm still going with the Dynasty Nerds on that one, simply from the standpoint that you've got Zach Moss that would equal the same amount of points that Tyreek would put up there. And I like the roster outside of those ones more favorable towards Dynasty Nerds. But one other thing that could affect the Dynasty Nerds there is it looked like they also had AJ Brown in the lineup there as well. And like we notated earlier, that could come back to hurt a little bit because there's some questions whether or not he is going to play. So definitely worth keeping an eye on that one there. But we'll go ahead and we'll select the Dynasty Nerds, and we'll head on over to the next one.
See Dynasty Nerds roster with that quarterback list. Like that has to be the Dynasty team for sure. But holy smokes. Rodgers, Winston, Burrow, Tannehill, and Stafford. Like I'm not going to count Mullins, but holy smokes, man. What a heck of a quarterback room that he has to fight with every week.
Right. Well, it would make sense that, that's very on brand. They are all about Dynasty over there, Dynasty Nerds. So I would probably agree with you that that's probably a Dynasty team there. So, guys, we already went through the matchup between us and Fantasy Pros, looking at it, and just a quick matchup here, right? We went through currently as the rosters sit. We've got Dak Prescott, Tyler Boyd, Terry McLaurin, Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey, Mark Andrews, and Ramondre Stevenson in versus Stafford, Deontay Johnson, Jerry Jeudy, Devonta Freeman, Nick Chubb, Dawson Knox, and Jacoby Myers on that one there. We took ourselves because, quite frankly, we like our team and we submitted it that way. But Kevin, any more gripping analysis on that matchup?
I think Dawson Knox really helped the Fantasy Pros team out, right?
Yep.
Falling into the end zone twice, and hopefully, after speaking about that Tuesday night, right, we had some questions about Dawson Knox. So I'm hoping that the advice was well served, and they played Knox after we brought all that up. So Dak had a very good game. Like I said, the Dak played very well for what he could do. The problems came on the defensive side of the ball for the Cowboys. But I think McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook are going to carry the way for the good old boys team here come Sunday.
Yep. And the fact that we've also got the got Mark Andrews in there as well. I see him having a very big week. Terry McLaurin, I think, will have a good week there as well. So last matchup as far as the tournament goes here. Let's go ahead and head in here. It's the football guys taking on a different Ball Blast team here. And let's go ahead and look at this one. So far, you've got kind of two voting for the football guys, one voting for Ball Blast there. But let's get into this matchup here and let's see how this one's going to shake out here. Oh, we've got a lot of similarities in these rosters that are ultimately going to negate each other. So this one's going to be a fun one. You've got Lamar Jackson, Cordero Patterson, Cooper Kupp, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, George Kittle, Devontae Freeman, and Deebo Samuel for the Football Guys roster versus Lamar Jackson, Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Darrell Henderson, TJ Hawkinson, DK Metcalf, and Devonta Smith for the Ball Blast team. So, Kevin, what are your thoughts on this one?
Wow. So what? Three guys, if I'm looking at this correctly.
Yeah, Deebo, Kupp, and Jackson.
So Deebo, Kupp, and Jackson. So when in doubt, when you're taking all those points away from each other, the best player left on either team is Christian McCaffrey. So I'm going to take this Ball Blast team to walk away with it. I like what DK can do here on Monday night. That'll be fun to watch. The Packers' rushing defense isn't that great, so I think Henderson will have a good game on the ground as well. So for me, I'm going to tell you Ball Blast is going to take this W.
Yep, that's what I was thinking as well when I was going through that, right? Because of the fact that you have so many players that are ultimately going to just negate each other in this matchup here to the point where, it goes down to, is there a guy left that can single-handedly win this matchup? And there is in several of these cases, right? Cooper Kupp in a lot of weeks could go out there and win a week by himself for you. Lamar Jackson could go out and win a week by himself for you. Deebo Samuel at points this season has been able to go on out there and win a week for you. But the fact that all three of those guys are going to be non-factors in this game, Christian McCaffrey is a guy that can go out there and win a week for you. And so absolutely, I'm going to lean that way as well with you. And we're going to vote for the Ball Blast team there as well. So we're going to enter the challenge on that side and take the Ball Blast team here. And so that's going to kind of even that up 2-2 as far as the matchups go on this one. So guys, that puts us as far as voting on the tournament of champions here. Now, one of the other things that you can do is we went through and we put a couple of teams up there as far as, challenges out there for folks to go ahead and try and compete with us on and hop in there and play against us. And so one of the options that we have out there is you can actually take on this good old boys team that we have in the tournament there, and we actually have somebody looking to try and take advantage of that. So let's look at this and see if we want to take on this roster here, Kevin. So the person we'd be going up against would be playing Lamar Jackson, Jamar Chase, Darnell Mooney, Saquon Barkley, Tony Jr., Gerald Everett, Mike Evans, Justin Tucker, and the Tampa Bay defense. They've got several of the other players on their roster there as well. But what do you think? Is this one that we should take on here?
Oh hell, why not? It's the one
All
we
right.
have, right? Like let's make it fun. Let's accept the challenge. Own up to it and see what we can get to this weekend. Holy smokes, look at this lead we got.
Alrighty, so looking at it, yep. One of those that I'm
sure that play Mooney. Oh no, he didn't. Oh, it's not updating.
No, it doesn't look like. But granted, the challenge just got accepted, so sometimes it takes the site about 10 minutes for it to refresh everything. And since we just updated it, that could do it. Now, you'll probably also see, because this is the scoring that you tend to see in the good old boys league, right? Like we talk about our crazy scoring and how that comes to play and all of these different things here. But that being the case, you saw Dak put up 67 points on this one. I'm sure that's going to get leveled out there, normalized there a little bit into more of a half point type of PPR scoring. So you'll probably see that come down and a little bit closer to earth there, where it'll probably be like a 23, 24 point type of lead there. And then we had the kicker for Buffalo play out there. And that's probably going to be again, pretty similar to what that'll go with. But Kevin, that leads us into, which way are we leaning as far as who we're going to vote for the,
are we even asking that question? We're picking ourselves here.
Fair enough. That was a silly question. I get it. We'll go with it.
Bet on black.
Bet on us. Absolutely. There we go. So now that we've accepted the challenge,
there you go. Now
you see the scoring getting normalized there a little bit. and you see the some of these players start coming into play there as far as that goes. So in this lineup, he did play he did play Darnell Mooney, and he also did play Tony Jr. in that matchup there. And you see Dak come down to right about what I was thinking in that 23, 24 point range for a half point. And Tyler Bass stayed right about the same with 7 points there. So right now, currently leading that matchup there at 30-17. So it'll be a fun one, and we'll see how this one comes to play with the rest of this this matchup and how it plays out there. But Kevin, any other matchups here that we want to try and take a look at? Any other things that we want to take a peek at here?
I think the biggest thing is just, go get on propsfantasy.com, right? And then step one is sign up, register, and then you can take part in all of this with us. Obviously, the Tournament of Champions is something slightly different, but you can send out the challenges. You can stack one of your teams up against one of ours, and we can really kind of have some fun and interact that way. Coming down the pike, we will have the ability to, throw a little bit of scratch at these games, and whether it's a $1 game or a $5 game or whatever. And, it's all towards the winning side. So it does play a little bit of hedging your bets, right? If you have 8 people on one side, those 8 people are splitting the prize pool. But if you only have 1 or 2 on the others, splitting it 2 ways is better than splitting it 8. So, a lot of strategy once that part gets integrated in as the props fantasy team finalizes the last couple steps with this. But like I said, step one, go to propsfantasy.com, register. You can upload any of your sleeper or Yahoo teams. ESPN should be in the works here shortly, but that has not been finalized just yet. So right now it's Sleeper and Yahoo, and you can upload any one of your teams as you adjust the roster in your I call it your main app, meaning your team website. It automatically updates here on props. So if you change it there, it changes here, guys. And so you're not having to click on a bunch of different pages and go look for it and remember it and everything else. So, excuse me, like Derek said, it's a really fun way to get to play with different people, or, if someone missed out on joining a league, or if they think that their team's unbeatable, it doesn't matter who you stack up against them, all the office banter, this is the place where you can settle that, even though, you guys may not be in the same league going head to head. Well, now you guys can go head to head whenever you want.
Absolutely. And you know what, Kevin, I guess one thing too, before we tune out there, let's take a look so far and see how we're doing in our matchup, because we did take the matchup against Joel while he was on here. So let's just see how this one is shaken out here. We picked ourselves that night, but so far in that matchup, looks like there's some pretty good back and forth. So far, he's taken the lead because he had the Dawson Knox versus TJ Hawkinson there, but he also played DeAndre Swift. So, as long as we can have Joe Mixon and James Robinson outdo the combination of DeAndre Swift and Austin Eckler, we'll probably be all right there, because we're playing Devontae Adams and Deontay Johnson versus Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Laviska Shenault. So should be a very good matchup here, very interesting matchup. But this is a fun one, guys. Go ahead and hop on over again to Props Fantasy. As getpropsfantasy.com. You can sign up there and you can vote and back us on any of these plays here. Any other thoughts on this one?
No, more to come from this team, guys. I mean, you'll be seeing and hearing from us all over this website as we continue to try and work with these guys and help promote this great fantasy football tool. So jump in, check it out, send over your feedback. I know the team is at Props Fantasy is always willing to explore new and exciting options to keep fantasy players happy. So definitely worth a check.
And they are very responsive on that as well. So if you have a question, you have a comment, you have a concern, any of those things, get in touch with them. Very responsive, and it's not one of those canned answer type of things that you get from so many of these sites about, oh, we've got somebody looking into it, yada yada yada, and then 4 or 5 days later you finally get a response. Anytime that so far that we've sent any questions in or had any comments, we typically had a very thorough response within the day on that one. So very responsive, very and just a great group of folks over there. So very excited to be able to continue to bring you some information from them and showcase that as well. Kevin, before we get into our next matchup, though, we've got a question coming in on YouTube. It's Ju Zhao on YouTube. Ju Zhao, welcome back. Always appreciate seeing you in the chat there. If Aaron Jones plays, are you taking Jones or Deontay half-point PPR? Also, Carolina or Phillies defense special teams. What are your thoughts on this one?
Ooh. I'm playing Aaron Jones because I have my wagon hooked to him. And I don't know. It's just the boat that I'm in at the moment. The Deontay upside is nice, but the Aaron Jones baseline is favorable towards what I'm looking for, I think. Deontay, I just don't have any love for Big Ben right now. And he's trying to find ways to get these guys the ball. Some weeks it works, others it doesn't. So if Aaron Jones plays, I'm going with my, first or second round pick at running back as opposed to my sixth or seventh round pick at wide receiver. Carolina or Philly, huh?
I gotta lean Philly, to be honest with you. Like, I get it that the Jason Garrett no longer there, no longer calling play calls, and we've seen Freddie Kitchen give a some juice to an offense in replacing an offensive coordinator, things like that in the past. But I don't see that one holding the same on this one. And quite frankly, I don't know how much more that the New York Giants have left in the tank this season, to the point where you start seeing guys get shut down. I really think that Philly's going to walk away on this one pretty easily. Carolina, Miami can put up some points here and there, but I think I lean the Philly side of it, and I'm going to play Aaron Jones as well. And a lot of for the same reasons that you just said there. I like the floor on that one, and if I in my flex play, if I can play a running back that's healthy, that's the key difference there is if Aaron Jones is going to play and he's healthy. So I'd be really looking at that injury report there to see what the final designation is and all of that, whether it's a game type decision that he goes or if it's a he clears tomorrow and he's a full expected go type of thing. So there's some of that, but yeah, I'm going to play Jones and I'm going to take the Phillies defense.
Cosign.
Okay, awesome. Juzal, appreciate the comment. Thanks again for tuning in. Always appreciate seeing you in the chat there. Let's go ahead and head to the afternoon slate of games here. We've got the Los Angeles Chargers coming to Denver, taking on the hometown Denver Broncos. The Chargers are favored by 3.5. The over-under is 47.5. What are your thoughts on this game?
I'm taking the Chargers because as soon as I do, the Broncos will win.
Yep.
So I'm self-serving my hometown fandom and saying that the Chargers will win, so that way the Broncos do win. So now that I'm done talking in circles, in all reality, it should be LA. The Chargers should win this game. The Broncos will not have an answer for Austin Eckler. They're still ravaged through their linebacking core. Keenan Allen typically destroys the Broncos, even in losses. So he's a guy that's a must start for me right now. And Herbert is just kind of cooking, man. And I don't see the Broncos being able to get a whole lot of pressure on him, which is going to spell bad news for that Denver Broncos defense. So I'm taking the Chargers to cover the 2.5. I'm going to take the under, though, because I don't think the Broncos are going to score enough points. Like, their defense is good enough to keep this game relatively close and not hit the over, because I don't think the Broncos are going to be breaking 20, 24 points in this game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. This one almost has the feeling of kind of that 24-21 type of game, 24-20 type of game. Like that's how I kind of see this one playing out there. So I like the under. I do think that the Chargers win this game, but that 3.5 is very, very is really kind of an interesting deal there because I see it being really kind of in that field goal range again. But I'm going to say that the Chargers cover. I'm going to say that the under gets hit on a 24-20, I think is where I'm going to land on this game as it plays out there. And I do like Javonte Williams. I do like Melvin Gordon. The Chargers have been very, 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 very bad against opposing running backs as far as allowing fantasy points go. So I do like them to put up some very good things there on the ground and see both of those players being very fantasy relevant. The other question, though, is this a game where we see Courtland Sutton get back on track, or is it going to continue to be more the same where he's almost unusable for fantasy? That's one of the things that I'm going to be looking at there. And unfortunately, I have to lean to the point where I don't know that if I can pivot away from Courtland Sutton, I'm going to do that. Any other thoughts on this game?
No. Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, I think, will have some good run here. I like Javonte slightly more as the season kind of continues to go on. I like Judy and Tim Patrick, I think, slightly more than I like Courtland Sutton as well. And Noah Fant, I think, will have a little bit of run too, but in bits and pieces, guys. Like, we're not talking surefire hammers. It's just bits and pieces here.
Yep. Alrighty, let's go ahead and head over to the next matchup here. The LA Rams heading to Green Bay, and the Rams, the road favored by 1 in this game. The over-under is 47. What are your thoughts on this game here?
I'm taking the Packers at home. Like I just LA's 4-6 against the spread right now. They've struggled mightily against the Titans, against the Niners. The Packers being at home being at Lambeau does have an advantage, guys. Like it's a little bit different than being in sunny LA coming to the frozen tundra and all the chaos that just constantly swirls around Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, and ultimately none of it's going to matter. They will find a way to get this done. I expect Devontae Adams to continue to find ways to perform, whether or not Jalen Ramsey is on him. I don't think that matters. I think if Aaron Jones plays, he is going to be used a lot out of the backfield. A.J. Dillon will continue to run a lot in between the tackles, I think, in this game to save Aaron Jones' knee just, a little bit. So, and I do expect the Packers defense to kind of come back and play better than what they did against the Minnesota Vikings a week ago.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. So I'm going to co-sign. I like the under on this one. I like the Packers to cover. The Packers are 9-2 against the spread this season, and at home, starting to play in here where we're getting into the tail end of November, beginning of December. Lambeau does pose some different challenges that a lot of teams aren't used to facing, and I think that holds true here. So I like the Packers, and I like the under on this one. Let's go ahead and head over to the next matchup here. You've got the Minnesota Vikings taking on the San Francisco 49ers. The Niners favored by 3 in this one. The over-under is 49.5. Or sorry, just 49. What are your thoughts here?
I'm going to take the Niners in their run game. I think that they're playing pretty well right now. Minnesota, yes, looked better against the Packers, but going on the road has always been a struggle for this team. I expect this game to be pretty quick, honestly. Like lots of Dalvin Cook, lots of Elijah Mitchell or Jeff Wilson. We'll see Debo. We'll see Justin Jefferson splash here a little bit. But ultimately, I think this game is under. And, man, I like the push a lot. I'd probably buy the hook and take the Niners at 2.5. because the 3 just screams push to me.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I would agree with you. This is one of those. This is one of those that when I was looking at this thing says a feeling where it's going to come down to kind of the wire and ultimately who can make a stand on defense or who can push one through in the last little bit there. But yeah, I would agree with you. I think this is going to be a lot of run the ball and run the ball and run the ball and run the ball to the point where this is going to be probably one of the fastest games that we see all week and may actually be one of the faster games we see all season. So, man, I really like Minnesota to cover this one. And I do like the under on this one. I think the Niners can probably pull this one out, but I I really think that Minnesota gets pesky and manages to keep this thing inside of 3 points there. So, yep, I'm going to take the Vikings to cover. I'm going to take the under. Let's go ahead and head on into the Sunday night game where you have the Cleveland Browns taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore is favored by 3, the over under 47. What are your thoughts here? That's 2.
Sucker. I'm taking the Ravens. Lamar Jackson's coming back. The Browns have not looked like a good football team here at the moment. They cannot get the passing game going whatsoever. And until they do, I'm going to continue to pick against them here at the moment. So I'm taking the Ravens in a divisional matchup. I don't think that they're going to have much of a problem with this one come the second half. And I'm going to take the under because I don't see how Cleveland scores enough points to get to 47.
Yeah. Yeah, this one to me screams a 24-21 type of game. Somewhere right in there. Like that's where I kind of see this one playing out. So 24-21 is really how I see that one come into play. The Ravens winning that one. So I think Cleveland covers and I like the under on it. So it'll be interesting to see how that one comes to play. But just again, that AFC North, those teams always seem to play each other very tight defensively and always seem to find answers on the defensive side of the ball to keep those games close. And I think that's how this one comes to play. So I think we'll see about 24-21 with the Ravens winning that one. Any other thoughts here?
No.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and head on over to the Monday night game. Seattle Seahawks taking on the Washington football team. And the Washington football team, I had to go through and look this one up because originally when I looked at it, there was no line on it. It was a straight, just even spread, but looks like it's updated to 1.5. As far as the spread goes, with the over under being 46.5. Washington football team is favored by 1.5. What are your thoughts on this one?
I like the Seahawks to get off the Schneid in this one. I also like the over. I can't believe there's something, but 46 seems really low for this game given how bad both these passing defenses are. So I'm going to take the over in this one. I think that's what I like most. But I do think Seattle finds a way to squeak this one out. So Seattle in the over, and we're going to let Russ cook.
Cosign absolutely on that one. That's how I see this one playing out there as well. I do think that this one manages to be a lot of a back and forth type of game. And you see a little bit of a track meet kind of going, not necessarily where points are involved and people getting in the end zone, a ton on this one, but I do think that you see this one probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 27-24 type of thing, favoring Seattle is how I see this one ultimately playing out there. And this is the week that you start to see some of your Seattle pass catchers become relevant again for fantasy football. They certainly haven't been so far on the season. I see Terry McLaurin having a very good game in this one. probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 10, 11 targets. But the question is whether or not they are catchable targets and whether or not, what he's then able to do with those things. So I do like this one to be the over. I do like Seattle to win it outright. So I think it'll be a very good matchup. Any other thoughts here?
No, I don't think so. This will cap off a good week of football for us.
Absolutely. So, guys, I do think that that's going to take us down here to the end of it. Kevin, any final thoughts for the listeners?
No, have a good weekend. Enjoy the leftovers, right? Enjoy the Thanksgiving leftovers. Get your Christmas lights up, all that good stuff. Enjoy. Hopefully you made it through the chaos of Black Friday and now you kind of get to go through the weekend, right? Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday, all that good stuff. So, enjoy. Watch a little bit of football when you have time. Great slate, honestly, tomorrow for college. The
rivalry week.
Yeah. So obviously highlighted by Ohio State and Michigan, just because they're both ranked inside the top 5 or 6, depending on what poll you're going after. But that'll be a good game as they kind of decide the Big Ten. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, Bedlam.
It's Bedlam
this week. So that'll be a good one, as that will. Honestly, you'll probably have a replay of that one for the championship game here in a couple weeks. But the winner continues their college football playoff chances. The loser is out, basically. So there are implications in that game. So that'll be good. Who else? We got the Iron Bowl. Auburn's not playing for anything, but they could play spoiler.
Yep.
They could play spoiler because a 2-loss Bama team is no bueno. And then who else we got? And then we got my Bulldogs going up against the smarty pants engineers of Georgia Tech. So honestly, I'm not expecting that one to be a very close game, but it's a rivalry game nonetheless. So enjoy it, guys. Have fun. Hit us up if you have any questions, injuries, late trade offers. Hell, even if you find some good prop bets. I love prop bets, and we don't really get into those in this show, but we could do a whole nother one just off the props we like. So hit us up if you have any of those. We're always down to chat and help out.
Absolutely. Guys, appreciate everybody tuning in and checking us out. Make sure you're also going over to getpropsfantasy.com and checking that out as well. Vote for your boys over there on that one in the Tournament of Champions as we look to try and bring home that cash and trophies on that one there as well. So absolutely appreciate everybody chiming in, tuning in, all that good stuff. You can follow us on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Good Old Boys FF. The website also right there, goodoldboysff.com. You can find the updated rankings for the week, things like that. If you're not able to get a hold of us, you'll at least be able to see our weekly rankings up there on that as well. And above all, anything else, make sure you head over to YouTube. Click the subscribe button, ring the bell. Again, that's one of the best ways to support this independent podcast, by subscribing to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast YouTube channel. Again, appreciate everybody tuning in. He's Kevin. I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe.